Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today.
Always exciting stuff to dive into.
Today we're looking at the world of space exploration, specifically SpaceX's recent Starship test flight.
Ah, yes.
We've got a really interesting piece from Dalan.com, a Pakistani news outlet, as our main source here.
Okay.
So get ready to unpack what happened during this test flight, what it means for SpaceX's ambitions, and the surprising impacts it had right here on Earth.
Yeah, it's amazing how events hundreds of miles above us can have these ripple effects down here.
Absolutely. So let's start by breaking down what happened.
Sounds good.
This new Starship prototype launched from Texas on Thursday, January 16th, 2025.
Okay.
It was carrying mock satellites and aiming to push the boundaries, as SpaceX usually does.
Right, pushing limits.
But just 8 minutes into the flight, things took a turn.
Yeah, mission control lost contact and losing communication during a space launch. Well, that's never a good sign.
Heck.
Think of it like this. You're driving a car, and suddenly the steering wheel stops responding. You don't know where you're going or how to stop.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Exactly. And in the case of Starship, this loss of communication could point to a number of issues, from technical malfunctions to the spacecraft veering off course.
Right.
And it's particularly concerning because this isn't just any rocket Starship. It's SpaceX's flagship,
Yeah, their pride and joy.
their hope for future heavy-lift missions, even potential trips to Mars.
Speaking of reaching far-off places, it seems like even reaching Haiti was a challenge this time.
Oh, right.
The Dano.com article, along with some Reuters footage, describes the Starship breaking up over Port-au-Prince.
Wow.
Eyewitnesses reported seeing orange fireballs streaking across the sky.
That must have been a sight to see. But you know what's even more revealing is what those visuals tell us about the nature of the breakup.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, combined with data from things like telemetry and sensor readings before the blackout, it helps us understand. The fact that debris was visible so clearly indicates the breakup occurred at a high altitude, perhaps during a crucial maneuver or stage separation.
So this wasn't just a rough landing, this was something going wrong much earlier in the flight.
Exactly. And to understand the potential causes, we need to delve a bit deeper into the technical aspects of Starship.
I'm all ears.
This new generation Starship, as the article calls it, had some key upgrades.
Okay, like what?
It was 2 meters taller,
Hmm.
suggesting increased fuel capacity, and it's likely they were testing enhancements to the Raptor engines, which are crucial for generating the thrust needed for such a massive spacecraft.
So more power, more fuel, but also more complexity and more points of failure.
Exactly, and that's where understanding things like telemetry becomes vital.
Okay, you're going to have to remind me what telemetry is again.
Oh, sure. It's essentially a constant stream of data sent back from the spacecraft, giving engineers real-time information on things like engine performance, temperature, altitude, and so on.
Okay, so like a live feed of what's happening.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. And analyzing this data alongside the visual evidence helps paint a more comprehensive picture of what went wrong.
Gotcha. Now let's talk about Elon Musk's reaction to all this.
Okay.
He posted a video of the debris field on X, formerly Twitter,
Oh, yeah.
with the caption, "Success is uncertain, but entertainment is guaranteed."
Classic Elon.
Kind of a classic Elon move, but maybe a little tone deaf considering what happened.
Yeah, it does raise questions about the culture at SpaceX, this balance they seem to strike between pushing boundaries and acknowledging the risks involved.
Right, because on the one hand, it's great to see them taking risks and learning from their mistakes.
But on the other hand, there's the whole, what if those risks lead to unintended consequences question?
Right. I mean, this wasn't just a contained experiment. There was actual debris falling from the sky.
And that's where things get complicated. This event wasn't just about a failed launch. It had real-world consequences.
Like what?
Well, for instance, several commercial airline flights over the Gulf of Mexico had to reroute to avoid this debris field.
Wow, seriously. So we're talking about air travel being disrupted because of something happening in space.
Yeah, think about it. Miami International Airport had to ground flights, and data from Flight Radar 24 shows that over 20 commercial flights had to change course.
That's crazy.
It highlights the fact that space exploration, even when conducted by private companies, has the potential to impact our everyday lives in a very tangible way.
So even though this happened high above us, it really brought the issue of space safety down to Earth.
Exactly. It raises questions about what controlled re-entry actually means.
Right, because it's not as simple as aiming for a remote part of the ocean and hoping for the best, is it?
Not at all. Imagine guiding a flaming hunk of metal traveling at thousands of miles per hour through the atmosphere
Oh my God.
and making sure it lands in a specific spot ideally somewhere vast and unpopulated.
It seems impossible.
It's incredibly complex, requiring precise calculations, maneuvering capabilities, and a bit of luck. And
Wow.
even then, it's impossible to eliminate all risks.
I'm starting to see why this incident is such a big deal.
It is, and it also brings up another important point, space debris.
Oh, right, because even if it lands in the right spot, there's still pieces that break off.
Exactly. You see, even a successful reentry will leave behind some degree of debris, things like insulation bolts, even small fragments of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And as space gets more crowded with satellites and spacecraft, this debris becomes a hazard.
Right. I can imagine.
Imagine a tiny piece of metal traveling at orbital speeds, colliding with a functioning satellite. The damage could be catastrophic.
So it's like a chain reaction, one incident leading to potentially more problems down the line.
Exactly. And that's why understanding events like this Starship test isn't just about SpaceX or Elon Musk.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It's about the bigger picture of how we as a species are interacting with space
Mm-hmm.
and the responsibilities that come with it. It's about developing robust safety protocols, not just for spacecraft, but for everything and everyone down here on Earth.
Yeah, it really is unnerving to think about how interconnected everything is.
You know, it's a valid concern. This whole incident with Starship really highlights a growing challenge, space traffic management.
Mm. In what way?
Well, currently, there are international guidelines for responsible space operations.
Mhm.
But as more private companies and nations launch spacecraft, those guidelines might need to evolve.
I see.
We need better ways to track objects in orbit, predict potential collisions, even actively remove debris.
So it's not just about avoiding those fireballs falling from the sky. It's about making sure space activities can continue long term.
Exactly. And there are some fascinating technologies being developed to tackle this whole space junk problem.
Like what?
Well, one idea is the laser broom,
Okay.
which uses ground-based lasers to nudge debris into a lower orbit where it'll eventually burn up in the atmosphere.
Interesting. And is that actually a feasible idea?
Well, it's still in the experimental phase,
Yeah.
and, there are technical and logistical hurdles to overcome.
I can imagine.
But the fact that these ideas are being seriously explored really shows how urgent the issue of space debris is becoming.
This makes me think about SpaceX's move fast and break things philosophy. It's obviously worked for them in terms of rapid innovation, but does this incident make you question that approach at all?
It's a valid point. I think this event underscores the need for a balanced approach.
Okay.
Yes, innovation requires taking risks, but those risks need to be carefully calculated and mitigated, particularly when they extend beyond the company itself and have the potential to impact global systems like air travel or the space environment as a whole.
It's a delicate balance for sure. Now, speaking of SpaceX's innovative approach, the article mentioned that this Starship was carrying mock satellites as part of its test. What does that tell us about their goals?
The fact that they were testing with mock satellites is significant. Remember, SpaceX isn't just about launching rockets. They have much grander ambitions.
Right.
They envision Starship as a workhorse for future space activities, capable of carrying not just satellites, but also cargo and even humans to destinations like the Moon and Mars.
Wow. So this test wasn't just about seeing if the rocket could fly. It was about testing its ability to deploy payloads, potentially as part of future missions.
Precisely. And by payloads, we're not just talking about a few scientific instruments. Think about the infrastructure needed for a lunar base or a Martian colony. You need habitats,
Yeah.
life support systems, power generation vehicles. The list goes on.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap my head around the sheer scale of what they're trying to achieve.
It is ambitious, to say the least, and it goes beyond just the technological challenges. Think about the logistics, the cost, the safety considerations, and the ethical implications of sending humans to another planet.
Wow.
These are monumental undertakings, and they require a different kind of thinking, a long-term perspective that goes beyond quarterly reports and profit margins.
It makes you wonder if their move fast approach is compatible with the complexity and, frankly, the enormity of these goals. I mean, colonizing Mars isn't something you can rush into.
You're right, and that brings us to another crucial aspect of the financial side of things.
Okay.
Developing and launching spacecraft like Starship is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
This test flight, while providing valuable data, undoubtedly came at a significant cost, both in terms of the lost prototype and the potential delays to the Starship program.
So a setback like this can't be good for business.
Exactly. While SpaceX has secured funding from various sources, including government contracts and private investors, these incidents raise questions about the financial sustainability of their long-term ambitions.
Right. Investors might get spooked and public confidence could be eroded.
Especially with those ambitious plans for human spaceflight you mentioned. People need to feel confident that these missions are safe and well-planned.
Absolutely. SpaceX has done a remarkable job of capturing the public's imagination with their achievements, but incidents like this remind us that space exploration is inherently risky, and as they transition from launching satellites to carrying humans, those risks become even more significant. It makes their entertainment is guaranteed motto feel a bit less lighthearted, doesn't it?
It does, and it highlights the importance of open communication. SpaceX has been relatively transparent about their successes, but it's equally crucial for them to be open about their setbacks, to explain what went wrong, what they've learned, and what steps they're taking to prevent similar incidents in the future.
It's about building trust not just with investors and the public, but with the international community as well. After all, space is a global domain, and everyone has a stake in its responsible use.
Precisely, and that brings us to another layer of complexity, the geopolitical implications of SpaceX's ambitions.
How so?
Well, we're no longer in an era where space exploration is solely the domain of government agencies. Private companies like SpaceX are now major players, and that's changing the dynamics of international relations in space.
It's like a new space race is heating up, but with different players and different rules. What do you think this means for the future of space exploration on a global scale?
That's a question with no easy answers. On the one hand, having more players in the game can drive innovation and accelerate progress. Competition can be a powerful motivator. But on the other hand, it raises concerns about potential conflicts, the militarization of space, and the need for clear international regulations to prevent a free-for-all in orbit.
So we've got a lot to consider here: a failed test flight, the potential for space junk, the financial implications, and the geopolitical landscape. It's a lot to unpack.
It is, and it all stems from this one event, this Starship test flight. It's a microcosm of the larger challenges and opportunities that are emerging as humanity ventures further into space.
So where do we go from here? What should we be thinking about as we continue to follow SpaceX's progress and the broader developments in space exploration?
Well, it's crucial to understand that space exploration is no longer just about technological prowess. It's about responsible innovation, international cooperation, and a shared vision for the future. It's about recognizing that the decisions we make today regarding space will have profound implications for generations to come.
It's a reminder that we're all part of this journey, even if we never leave Earth.
Yeah, it really does make you think, huh?
It does. And, one of the things that I find really interesting is how this whole incident is being perceived globally.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Especially since our main source for this deep dive has been Dalian.com, a Pakistani news outlet.
Right, exactly.
It makes you realize that this isn't just an American story. Even though SpaceX is a US-based company, the implications of events like this, they really resonate worldwide.
Absolutely. Consider this: someone in Pakistan reading that Dalan.com article might have a very different perspective on this Starship test than, say, someone here in the U.S.
Yeah, because their experience with space exploration is going to be much different.
Their understanding of the risks and benefits might be shaped by different cultural values, economic realities, even historical experiences.
So even though we're talking about events happening in space, the way we interpret those events is very much grounded in our earthly context. Precisely. And this highlights a key challenge for the future of space exploration. How do we create a shared vision, a common understanding of the goals and responsibilities of venturing beyond Earth, when those interpretations can vary so widely across cultures and nations?
It's almost like we need a universal translator for space exploration, something that can bridge those cultural and ideological gaps.
I love that analogy, and to some extent, that's what international organizations like the United Nations are trying to do. They're working to establish frameworks for responsible space behavior to foster cooperation and prevent conflicts. But it's a complex process, especially with the rise of new spacefaring nations and the increasing role of private companies like SpaceX.
Right, because it's not just about nations anymore. We have this whole other layer of complexity with commercial interests vying for position in space.
Exactly, and this is where things get particularly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a scenario where a private company like SpaceX discovers a valuable resource on the Moon or Mars. Who owns that resource? How is it extracted, and who benefits from its exploitation? These are questions that international law is still grappling with.
It sounds like we're in uncharted territory, both literally and figuratively.
It is, and it underscores the importance of having these conversations now. Before we get too far down the road of space commercialization, we need to think about the ethical implications of our actions, the potential for environmental impacts, and the need to ensure that space exploration benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
It's a big responsibility, and it goes beyond just the technical challenges of designing rockets and spacecraft. It requires a deeper understanding of ourselves, our place in the cosmos, and the values we want to uphold as we venture beyond Earth.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this so fascinating. Space exploration isn't just about pushing the boundaries of technology, it's about pushing the boundaries of our own understanding of what it means to be human.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the SpaceX Starship test and its implications, what's the one thought you'd like to leave our listener with? What's that question that will keep them pondering long after this episode ends?
Hmm. Here's something to consider. As we become a spacefaring civilization, what legacy do we want to leave in the cosmos? Will it be one of cooperation and shared discovery? Or will it be marked by competition and exploitation? The choices we make today will determine the answer to that question.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the complex and ever evolving world of space exploration. Until next time, keep looking up and keep asking those big questions.